This video was delayed 2 times because I ran out of money while building this deck. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. here. Today we are back to cover a deck from Festival Collection. So if you guys actually want to see me do more Festival Collection deck profiles, just let me know in the comment section below. I'll see what I can do. But this is definitely one of the two more standout decks from Festival Collection. This is Orfist Regis. Now, this deck is very weird in the sense that it is very hyped in a set that's relatively quite dead, and the price point for this deck is relatively quite insane, but the deck doesn't really feel like a new meta contender. Like, you still have the Pure Lights, the Kyries, you still have your DNs, you still have your Magnolias. It's not really doing much of a knock in terms of the actual meta game here in the Japanese format, which is kind of strange because, you know, given what this deck does, it's actually not that bad. You actually have a pretty solid multi-attacking engine for the first time in Orfist, besides just 3 columns, and it's kind of hard because some people are really quite stuck on whether they want to play the base Orfist into the new Orfist Regis or just stay on Orfist Regis. For me, I believe that we should be staying on Orfist Regis. It's not like the PBD debate where you kind of wanted the PBD, so you don't really need the old Orfist to build a board. You can build it and improvise yourself rather than needing that 3 Shadow Army token turn on turn 3. So this deck is going to be a more balanced style of Orfist Regis. You will see offensive options, you will see defensive options, and by the end of this day, we hope that you'll be able to, you know, see what you want to do in terms of your Orfist Regis deck profile, or whether it's even worth upgrading for you. If this is something that you want to see your own world's deck transform into, then, you know, this would be a set for you to pick up. Our right deck consists of Cardinal Fovi, Cardinal Noid Rotis, Cardinal Noid Cubisa, and last but not least, Cardinal Dominus Orfist Regis. So the right deck has not really changed. In fact, I can't really call this a change at all. It's mainly the grade 3 that's changed because, you know, Orfist Regis is new, but I'll still explain it. 4V is a typical D series starter. You know, it's all drawn by Daisuke, so all good, all good. Grade 1, also drawn by Daisuke. When placed on the Vanguard Circle, you can search your deck for a world spell card and add it to your hand. So you typically, in this deck, if you don't know what Orfist does by now, you're basically building this thing called worlds. So you have different field spells that you stack every turn on in your order zone, and then you plan to get as many as possible to achieve different states like Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight. So Dark Knight's when you have 1, Abyssal Dark Knight's when you have 2 or more. So he gets a skill, which is that if your world is in Dark Knight or in Abyssal Dark Knight, while this unit's a rear guard, he gets an extra 2k. It's a skill you don't use because you don't need to play this guy in the main deck anymore. We're not in set 1, we're in set 5.5, guys. So yeah, you don't really use this skill anymore. Cubisa's skill is when a world is activated, you choose one of your units against 5k. Okay, pretty good for a nice turn 2 tempo. And during your turn, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gains 5k at power. Like I said, you don't use this skill ever because you don't play this in the main deck, but it's just nice to know. Last but not least, the star of the show is Cardinal Dominus Orfist Regis. Regis, when placed on the Vanguard Circle, you choose a world spell card from your drop zone or your hand and place it into your order zone. Now, if you place it into your order zone, you are basically bypassing the cost. For example, Overcoming an Eternity needs you to pay 2 Soul Blast to actually use it, but if you just install it into your order zone straight away by the effect of the Regis, you don't need to pay this cost. Second skill is when he attacks, counterblast 1 and discard a card. If your world is in Abyssal Dark Knight, for every 2 worlds in your order zone, you superior call 1 Shadow Army token to your rearguard circle, and then this unit gains 5,000 power for each unit called by this effect. So if you have 4 worlds, you call 2 Shadow Army tokens, and this guy gains 10,000 power. So it works in intervals of 2, which is very interesting because last time in Orfist, you basically just needed 2 of your worlds, then you come into Abyssal Dark Knight, and you could basically get most of your effects, if not all of your effects from here. But Regis puts it a step further, encourages you to keep going on. in multiples of 2 to actually get more and more. So what this actually means for you as the world's player is really simple. So on turn 3, you generally, if you install a world on turn 2, and if you install a world on turn 3, then after that you use Regis' skill when placed. Not then, but you use Regis' skill when placed. You generally will have 3 worlds by turn 3. On turn 4, you can proceed to play 1 world as per normal, and by turn 4, you can multi-attack with 2 Shadow Army tokens. On turn 3, you only get to multi-attack with 1 at the maximum, at least for now. And then of course, if you play another world, naturally you go up to 5. But you need it to be in intervals of 2 to actually get this effect. So do keep this in mind when you are actually stacking your worlds. It generally is the main one you're looking for is to make sure you have 4 worlds by turn 4. So by hook or by crook, this is usually the main thing your deck is going for as an Orfist Regis player. So it's actually a pretty fun deck, as you can see. Just by looking at these skills alone, I mean, it's just such a cool idea that they've gone for Orfist. So yeah, I mean, it certainly is interesting if you can afford the card. So let's move on. I decided we're going to talk about the worlds first. So we play 4 copies of Howling Moonlit Night, 2 copies of Eroding Moonlight, and 3 copies of Overcoming an Eternity. So that is the orders that we'll be playing for this deck. So let's get into it. So for this one, Howling Moonlit Night, it's the order from set 1. So it's the oldest order here. When activated Soul Blast 1, you draw a card. Okay. This one, Eroding Moonlight, when you play this, you count plus 1, you summon a Shadow Army token. So basically, this is what the Shadow Army token is. It's the same token that you call with Orfist skill. This is some of the only few ways to call it. There is one more new way, so we'll show you that in a bit. So basically, as you can see, this is 2, which means you can use on turn 2. Orfist is a turn 3 card or more. So this is the only way you allow your Shadow Army tokens to participate in the early game at the cost of 1 Card Blast. So just keep that in mind, that if your opponent knows what you're doing, he can choose to Card Blast, deny you, and that could really derail your game. But in the situation where, you know, your opponent doesn't know all these counteract tactics, then feel free to just beat him up in the face. The last one is Overcoming an Eternity. It takes 2 soul to install it, but it doesn't do anything. It's a passive effect actually. When your Shadow Army token is placed, it gains 5,000 power. The Shadow Army token has a power of 15,000. If placed during the turn that you have Overcoming an Eternity installed, it goes up to 20,000, which is pretty significant. And this effect can stack. So for every copy of Overcoming an Eternity that you play, you basically get even more of this power bonus. However, it is Soul Blast 2, so I do recommend you to use Regis as the main method of installation. You could, in pure theory, afford to pay the cost of installing this card once manually, because you have 3 soul by turn 3. If you can pay 2 for it and then 1 for a Howling Moonlit, it's not horrible, but you ideally don't. Ideally, Regis does all the installation for you. Moving on to our grade 3s, we play 3 copies of Orfist Regis. I mean, this is just really common sense. We want to be able to, have our Persona right. Persona right is still such a wonderful mechanic, especially given that we actually have multi-attacks possibly on both columns on turn 4. So I really would not look down on the Persona right. I get it, a lot of decks are moving away from it thanks to Kidani's great design. But for us, I feel that it is still a mechanic we should be taking advantage of to the very best. Oh, and 1 Orfist in the right deck. Right. My bad. Our grade 2s, we play 4 copies of Cardinal Draco Elvidred, 4 copies of Cardinal Fang Dadai, 4 copies of Cardinal Draco Kilmajit, and 1 copy of this guy in the right deck. So yeah, that is pretty much what we are doing for our grade 2s. Our grade 2s is the biggest lineup, by the way, because we really want the early game. You already know what Cubista does. I don't have to talk about him anymore. This guy, Kill Jamid, is our main defensive house. If you are in Dark Knight, he gains a boost and can intercept from the back row. So basically on turn 2, because you have one auto open, you basically can go hand with this guy. You can call him as a tanky booster, you can call him as a tanky attacker, you can intercept with him, so he can even help you in early game defense. But he gets even better because during your turn, if you are in Abyssal Dark Knight, he gains additional 10,000 shield. So then he ups his shield to 15,000, which contributes a lot. So you can really use him really quickly in the early game to throw him out, or you can keep him in hand as a 15k shield. He clears his position from the board, so you can fill it with a Shadow Army token eventually, which is very appreciated. This is a really underrated card from set 4. Do look into it. Moving on, we have Cardinal Fang Dadai. Dadai is from the same set as our Orfist Regis, so he is really new. When placed, if you are in Abyssal Dark Knight, color blast 1 and superior, call a Shadow Army token. So basically, he is really just the same as Eroding Moonlight, but on a body, so he's not a hard once per turn. That's cool, and the only thing is he's restricted to Abyssal Dark Knight, so you can't actually call him on turn 2, only on turn 3 onwards to use his skill. But this is one of the main ways you build the board. Now that you're on Orfist Regis, you no longer have the same old CB2 to call 3 tokens. You have to build your board by extraterrestrial means with stuff like Dadai. So Dadai is less of a good card and more of a necessity for board building with Orfist Regis, although he just really isn't that good. In the future, when Orfist Regis does get better ways to build this board, I guarantee you Dadai is one of the first few cards that will be going straight to the butcher. And then of course we have Cardinal Fang Elvidred, not drawn by Daisuke Izuka, but killer art. Clearly someone has been reading his art books. During your turn, if your world is Dark Knight, he gains 2,000 power. If it's Abyssal Dark Knight, you gain 5,000 power instead. Okay, so it's a 12k beat turn 2 and a 15k beat turn 3. That's nice. At the end of the bell that is unit attacks, you retire one of your own Shadow Army tokens, retire one of your opponent's rear guards. So it's nice spot removal, it's a bit of a nice trading. You trade one of your tokens, you trade for one of your opponents. Considering the fact that you do actually want to retire some of your tokens to be able to, clear spots for Regis to multi-attack, this is a great way to spend them by taking them as kamikazes and just flying them straight into, the enemy rears that you want to get rid of. There's some instances though that this is absolutely useless, stuff with evaporating boards or stuff with resist, but in the matches that it does matter, having spot removal is always fun in this D-series format, so something like this can be kept until Orfist gets either a superior beat stick or superior spot removal. Moving on to our grade 1s. Our grade 1s, we play 1 copy of Raltis for the main deck, 2 copies of Tomberino, and 4 copies of Violet Dragon. I think that's his name, Violet Dragon. I don't actually remember, I'm not reading my cards right now. So, really quickly, this is the superior PG. I mean, pay for it, quote harder. Tomberino is a really good and cute card drawn by Daisuke Izuka. When she boosts a Shadow Army token, you can have that unit gain 15,000 power. At the end of the battle, this unit boosts, you retire both units, you draw a card. So it really escalates your aggression to the roof because you can now attack with a 38k column, which I've been told is quite hard in the 5k shield format. So the reason why I'm only playing at 2 is because I really just don't have enough space. But I would honestly relook at playing 4 of this. This is certainly an option that I do recommend Orfist players to continue playing and help her out. She's so cute. Of course, we are playing this for the right deck. Not this. But if you must know, yeah, Shadow Army tokens are grade 1. So today you learn. Our grade 0s, we play one of our OTs. We play 3 draw, although if you can play the better draws better. I just ran out of money. Please sponsor me. We play 8 crits. And for heals, and our starter is 4V. Because 4V is such a good boy. So yeah, I mean, that is really all I can really say about that. It's really such a standard build because the OT you have to play this is superior. If you don't have it, I'm sorry, you have to. That's why this deck's so expensive. You need 8 crits because we are playing D series. playing 3 draw because Orfist is piece reliant, but if you can afford the better draw, just do it. Of course, for heal and our starter. Right, and that actually ends the Orfist Regis deck profile. I must say, this deck is, honestly, it's really fun to play because, you know, it's drawn by Daisuke Izuka's one thing. The playstyle is actually not that boring anymore. It's just so fun. It's really nice to have multi-attacks. It's really nice to be able to trade off your tokens and plan your turns ahead. It's really cool to have, you know, orders in a more integral part of your deck where it doesn't feel like crap like Zorga. But this deck just isn't, it doesn't perform as well as the rest of the higher end competitors. Orfist Regis is by no means a bad deck. If that's what you think when you're watching this video, I can assure you this is not a bad deck at all. It just feels so mid. It doesn't feel like it outrightly breaks any meta thing, but it doesn't feel as crap as, say, set 2 PBD or set 1 Eugene. You know, it just doesn't feel bad, but at the same time, it just doesn't feel that great. So, is this something you want to really invest in? Well, I would say if you can afford it, go for it, because I really love this deck. But if this is something you feel you won't be able to afford in the future, and you should be taking note of the price points, then I would say you may want to consider skipping on this, especially if you don't actually have the cash to spare. Unlike me, because I made huge mistakes when building this. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time. I am still really busy with a lot of things on my end, so you won't be hearing much from me. I do intend to cover a lot more VCall when VCall comes out, and maybe a bit of festival as well. So if you'd like to see more festival collection, drop me a comment below. I'll see what I can do. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.